back of Gregson is going to do in the 1500. He has time to look behind him. 20 years of age, and he is on top of the world.
But coming down for a maiden national crown, Cornwall is the champion.
Garou's has run his race, or has he? Has he got anything left? El Garou's trying to get there. Kipchoge, the junior's there. El Garou's is trying to get to the line. Kenya wins it. Kipchoge takes
Vivian Chariot's turn. And what a proud moment for her and the Kenyans. The first woman from her nation to take the 5,000-metre title. Vivian Chariot's in Dreamland.
on the outside. Ollie Hoare of Australia comes. Jake Whiteman has just spent. It's going to be Chariot and Hoare. Who's going to get it? It's going to be Australia. The gold.
Hey everyone, Sam here from RT today. We have a pretty cool episode this week with coach Lee Bobbin. Lee is the coach of Cameron Myers, who just a few weeks ago broke Ryan Gregson's under 18 Australian 1500 metre record, clocking 340.6. This time brought Myers to just 0.68 of a second away from becoming the fastest 16-year-old in the history of 1500 metre running. Myers is lining up in Melbourne in a few weeks to have a crack at becoming one of the youngest in history to break the sub-4 mile. We hope you enjoy this chat with Lee Bobbin, but before we jump in, a quick word from the sponsor of this episode. Run the Night at Singapore's most vibrant night marathon this May. Experience the Sundown Marathon on an endurance travel experience package from $2,700. All packages include accommodation, transfers, guaranteed race entry, Tarkine shoes and tea, facilitated runs with a professional coach, recovery station access, and more. Inquire today by visiting endurancetravel.co. And to top it off, every inquiry has the chance to win a Tarkine running pack worth $500. Lee, it's lovely to have you on Runners Tribe. Got a lot to kind of want to quiz you on, but let's just start with when and how did you first get into coaching?
Well, thanks for having me, Sam. I mean, I've listened to a lot of the podcasts on Runners Tribe. It's a bit strange to be on this side of the desk, but thanks for having me. I got into coaching when my daughters were running Little A's. One of them did quite well, and she got selected in the ACT Little Athletics squad. And then I decided that I would try and get her some coaching to help her. So I took her along to Dennis Goodwin, who was a 18 FCA level 4 coach in Canberra, middle distance. And he agreed to take her on, but he basically said that I've got such a huge squad, I want you to give me a hand. So he sort of got me into the training on the, with helping him out. He became my first mentor. I helped him with his squad for probably 12, 13 months. And then, I had people asking me whether they could, sort of come along and join me. So after a while, we sort of had the two squads running side by side.
I understand. And so prior to meeting, that arrangement, you didn't have any experience in coaching? It was all just a learned experience from then on?
I became a club coach with Belconnen Little Athletics Club. And that was very basic. It was, like helping all of the juniors with their various events during the day. But it was a very basic club coach type thing. It was only when I joined up with Dennis and his squad and got my daughter involved that I started to then, he encouraged me to, go to the courses, get my qualifications and get into it.
And were you a runner yourself back in the day or not?
If you saw me now, you'd say, no way. But as a young bloke, I played rugby league in the ACT and I started running for fitness and I really, really enjoyed running and I ended up getting up to about 140K a week. So, I mean, I was into it a lot, but I was never into, being coached or interval training or anything like that. I just, run to work or run home from work or, go for a run. That's all I did. But my job took me overseas for a couple of years and it was just too hard to run overseas. So, I mean, I've been an on and off runner all my life.
Gotcha. And I
But never
assume,
competitive.
yeah, gotcha. I assume the relationship with Dennis is finished now, and you've got your own squad, obviously for many years.
Correct. Yeah, definitely.
And where is this squad based? For those, obviously I know, but for those who are listening in from around the country and, overseas, where is it based and how many athletes do you have at the moment?
I'm based in the ACT. Belconnen is the area that I'm in. I coach at the AIS at the Stromlo cross-country running track and various other locations. There's great places in Canberra to run, the Arboretum and lots of national parks and things like that. I've got currently 7 athletes and I've got like 3 soccer players who come for a bit of fitness and that sort of thing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and obviously Telford's got, probably 15 or 18. So there's quite a big group go.
How do the soccer players keep up in, in a 6-bar 1K session or something similar?
You'd be surprised. They do pretty well. The soccer players are my daughter, who was the good runner as a 13-year-old. She had to make a decision whether she wanted to continue the running or whether she was going to play soccer. So she ended up, playing the soccer. She's now an NPLW player in Canberra. But, she really enjoys the running and the fitness, and it really benefits her game in the soccer. She's probably the quickest in the competition in Canberra. So, and the other girls are just seeing her and thinking, wish I could do that. And so they've been coming along.
I guess historically, there's been so many well-known middle distance runners that played a lot of soccer growing up, and it's a sport that is very conducive to middle distance running, isn't it?
It certainly is. Yeah, no, it's great, and it's a great cross training for young athletes to get involved in.
And assuming those 7 athletes, it's all middle distance type runners, obviously.
They are now. In the early days, I dabbled in, a bit of jumping, a bit of hurdling, and that sort of thing. I actually had a very talented heptathlon athlete. She came 3rd in the under-18 Australian national. But once again, she was poached to GWS Giants as a W League player, and she's, kicking goals down there, pardon the pun.
I'm interested in jumping into a bit about your coaching philosophy. I'm assuming you're influenced by Dennis a bit, but just I want to dive deeper and, what's your coaching philosophy? Are you kind of a Lydiard or a co-type background or whatnot? And, what coaches, if any, have really influenced you and your coaching style?
I mean, that's a good question. I really didn't get influenced by other coaches. When I first started, I tried to learn as much as I could about the human body's energy systems. And from that, all the coaching that I did was based on how to enhance the various energy systems that the human body has. So I don't claim to have followed any specific type of coaching system. I've just sort of done my own thing based on energy systems. And when you're dealing with younger athletes, like when Cameron was a young bloke, the amount of training or the amount of volume you can do is limited. So, it was very much focused on improving, the anaerobic, the aerobic and the lactate energy systems.
Gotcha. So that's my next question, just for everyone listening that might not be following you with energy systems. You're referring to aerobic and anaerobic, and then you added in lactate energy systems there. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Right. And so let's just talk about the balance. Let's just take Cam, for example, because a lot of people listening would know him or have heard of him, not really know him, but in terms of concentrating on a guy like Cam, developing him for 1,500 meter running or 3,000 or 5K one day or whatever, are you mainly concentrating predominantly on an aerobic kind of development, or how much % is your anaerobic on a typical week or that sort of stuff?
Well, right now, because, Cameron's 16 now, so he can handle a reasonable amount of volume. So when he was a younger athlete, we didn't do the volume. So we concentrated on pace as well as aerobic. And we did speed endurance, which is the lactate type energy system. So he was an 8:15 type runner when he was younger. But over the last probably 12 or 18 months, he's been dealing with the volume of training much better. He's up around the 95 kilometres per week. And I would have to say that a much greater percentage is on aerobic type, high-end aerobic running, threshold running, sub-threshold running is more what we're doing now. And that has sort of led to his 3K time improving out of sight and, his strength over 1500.
Gotcha. And just to further on, the whole threshold thing is such a big thing these days that everyone is using kind of on a weekly basis. And what's his thresholds at right now? Is he kind of 20-minute thresholds, 30-minute thresholds? What is there a kind of a set threshold that he has, or does it vary?
Well, I mean, when we're talking threshold, I talk threshold as in the pace of his running,
Gotcha.
Which may well be on shorter reps. I mean, there could be 2K reps, 3K reps, 5K reps.
Yeah.
He's capable of running, a 10K, I would think at the moment in probably 30, 31 minutes. As it gets shorter, he gets better because he's got that natural speed. But, I would say that his threshold pace over a kilometre would be about 2:52. And if he was running sub-threshold, which is like if you wanted to do a 5 or a 6K run, it's probably around 2:56, 2:58.
Gotcha. There's wild variation in the way, obviously, as you know, that middle distance runners get trained from, guys who do a fair bit of speed per week to guys like Stu McSween, who really, as Nick has stated so many times, doesn't really do much race-specific workouts. Let's just take your athletes in the middle of winter, for example, when a true track race is many months away. Are you doing any speed work whatsoever wedged in the middle of winter, or is it mainly just aerobic development in winter?
I mean, I like to maintain a bit of speed work all year. I think it doesn't hurt the athlete, and I mean, it certainly can benefit them, but not a lot, So, it may be one session a month or something like that where we might throw in, a half a dozen or more 200-metre efforts at a pretty good clip. The rest of the day or the rest of the time, we might be running a 5K, race pace type efforts, 3K race pace type efforts over shorter rep distance. But, we do try, or I do try and throw in a few quicker 200, 300 efforts all year.
All year, gotcha. And so you said at the start of that, pretty much once a month, maybe during winter, but it wouldn't be a weekly thing that they're smashing out a 200-metre race pace kind of.
No, not a weekly thing, no.
What about, you have some pretty meaty hills around where you are. How much time do you spend on the hills? In that sort of base phase that you mentioned, back in winter when it's, not going to be a race in the week coming up, we do quite a lot of hills. And as you say, we're pretty blessed here to have a lot of fire trails and the Stromlo running course and the Arboretum. So we do blocks. We might do a block of 4 weeks with hills once a week, and then we'll, convert that onto a, sort of a flatter surface and build the strength work into speed work, and then, rotate back to the hills, a month from then. Gotcha. I think I already know what you're going to say with this one, but I wanted to ask you a little bit about how the training varies from week to week and month to month. We have, obviously, as you know, in Australia, the Clohessy and, Nick Beddoes systems that vary. They do vary, obviously, between the seasons, but much smaller and minor variations than, say, many of the traditional coaches that take the Sebastian Coe kind of Peter Coast type training philosophy. How much does your training vary from, month to month?
Right now, it doesn't vary, that much. It's fairly consistent type of work. It's the high-end aerobic, a little bit of lactate, and very limited anaerobic type work. But when they were younger, it was totally opposite. I mean, when my athletes were younger, they would do a week-to-week type thing. We would vary the sessions, we would vary the distances, we'd vary the number of reps, we'd vary the recovery, just so that they remained keen, excited, didn't know what was going to be, happening from week to week. And that was because they were also on low volume. So it was easier to do a little bit more intensive training with the lower volume. And nowadays we're sort of just working on that, high level aerobic and throwing in the other type of energy systems where needed, depending on what's coming up.
Gotcha. What other athletes, you've obviously got Cam, but what other athletes have you got in there at the moment? Have you got some runners that kind of at Cam's level, or?
Right now, probably not. I don't know. I used to coach a guy called Tom Palfrey. I don't know whether you've ever heard of Tom.
Yes.
He's currently,
Yes.
yeah, he's in America at the University of Oregon on scholarship over there. But I coached him from, he was probably 10 or 11 when he started with me. And, he was running really well. He when he just turned 17, he ran a 3:40.79, 1500 at the Canberra Track Classic, just behind Jai Edwards. So, he was also an extremely good runner. And so I've had him. I've also had quite a number of really quite good athletes, but as most coaches can attest to, like as soon as you start getting them fit and start getting them fast, then, the rugby leagues and the soccers and the AFLs and all that's come in and poach them off you. And so athletes that could have been really good end up playing, all of these team sports.
Yeah, that's annoying, hey?
It can be very annoying, yeah, for sure.
Is your squad training every day? Is it a 7-day week thing? Do they have a rest day or 2 rest days or just easy jogging days? How does that work?
Yeah, no, Cam has a rest day. Fridays is a rest day for Cam. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday are, sort of supervised sessions, either at the track or at Stromlo. Monday, Wednesday and Sunday are his, he'll do a run on a Monday, which is sort of tempo but not super fast. On a Wednesday, he'll do a recovery bit after a Tuesday track session. And then on the Sunday, he'll, do his, long run.
Gotcha. How long's his long run at the moment?
We're going to cut it back a little bit. I mean, we're going to try and get his mileage down a little bit because we're at the competition end of the season. So, but I would say he probably does between 15 and 18K on a Sunday.
Nice. I think you mentioned to me previously before we press record or maybe via email that you've been coaching Cameron for about 5 or 6 years. How did that come to pass? Was it a little athletics thing, or how did you guys meet?
Cameron was, he did do little athletics, and he was also playing soccer, and he was being coached by a little athletics club coach in Ginninderra. But, he was also following Tom's, success. He was starting to win national titles and running quite well. And, he wanted to train with Tom. So that's when he and his mum came along and said, could I join your squad and train along from there? So he was really interested in, running, with Tom.
With Tom, with the decision to go to college, did you work through that with Tom? Was that something that you were supporting or, discussing kind of the pros and cons with him, or was Tom just all over that and just something he wanted to do?
Yeah, look, that one's, a good question, Sam. I mean, obviously I was, reluctant to lose someone of Tom's caliber, But, these universities in America, the offers that they provide these young athletes is just phenomenal. So, the quality of the education, they give them all the support they need. They provide tutorage. They have the best facilities, like Oregon's got, the best facilities in the world for athletes. They've got all of the medical and all of the science and all of the equipment. So it's really difficult to try and talk a guy out of going if he wants to go. And I mean, trying to hold him here, he may have done really well, and I think he would have done, but at the end of the day, he's doing what he wants to do and he's happy and he's enjoying it over there. So good luck to him. Really happy that he's going well.
Do you guys stay in touch?
Not as often now. He's in his second year now. So Cameron keeps me updated. He's got him on I don't have Instagram and all that sort of social media. So Cameron keeps me updated on everything that's happening. My daughter also keeps me updated on what's going on. So I do know what he's doing, and I follow the university and I follow his, sort of world athletics profile. So yeah, I keep an eye on him.
I don't know if you listened to the podcast we did with Ollie Hall last year, but he went into detail about his, college experience and just how much opportunity there was. And it's a tough argument, isn't it, when there's just so much money to be splashed around and, pretty much the perfect conditions for training and racing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's right, it is. And at the end of the day, with Ollie, he's done really well and he's managed to, sort of get onto a fairly lucrative contract with, like a professional runner. And I mean, good luck to him. It's not probably something that you could score in Australia if you stayed here through our system. But, maybe that's what Tom's idea was as well. So, good luck to him. I hope he can run some great races, get in some good teams and do that.
Yeah, the shoe companies in Australia just don't seem to have the same budgets, right? As the big ones in the United States. It's a different
Unbelievable. Yeah, that NCAA system, there's billions of dollars floating around over there for that, not necessarily track and field, but the football and the baseball and the basketball, which helps to fund the track and field and cross country. So yeah, a lot of dough.
Runners Tribe made a mistake after Cam ran his 340 and broke the under 18 Australian 1500 metre record. We published an article stating that he was coached by Dick Telford, and I had to reach out to you and apologise for that because we hate making mistakes, especially when it's something like that, which means so much to people. And I just wanted to, we did check with a few people before publishing. Obviously, our sources were wrong, but I wanted to pick your brain on why some people out there do think Cam is coached by Dick, and just wanted to put the whole rumour to bed.
Yeah, well, that's understandable. I mean, it's probably a fairly easy mistake to make, and I appreciate you fixing it for me. The relationship we have with Team Telford and Dick started in around 2020, late 2020, when Tom was, really running quite well, putting some really good times down. And, I was coaching my squad at locations and at times when Dick was coaching his Team Telford elite squad. And I mean, I kept watching these guys. I mean, it's great to watch elite runners run. So I kept watching what they were doing. And I just thought to myself that if I want to improve Tom and then obviously Cameron, that I have to get them training with people that can drag them up to their level, as opposed to continually trying to train Tom on his own. I used to ride my bike in front of Tom and pace him along with his work. It wasn't an ideal situation, but that's what I had to do because there wasn't any other runners that I had that could, push him along. So at the time I went up to Dick and I said, look, I've got a couple of good runners here, Dick. Would it be okay if I was to throw them in to some of your sessions to try and help them along? And I mean, that, Dick's great when it comes to supporting athletics and athletes and that sort of thing. And he said, absolutely no problem at all. Happy to have you guys jump in. But he made it very clear, he said that you're their coach and that you have to monitor their sessions. You have to modify their sessions so that, they don't overcook or anything like that. And so that's how the relationship started. I would throw them in for some or all, or I'd modify the distance or the recovery, or I'd pull them out and let them rest for a rep or something like that. And that's how we started. We just started, running with these elite guys. And it was only 5 months later that Tom ran his 3:40.79. So it certainly worked in that respect for him. Cameron was luckier because he always had Tom. So when they were, when Cam was 10 and 11 and 12 and 13, he always had Tom, who was 14, 15, 16. And, he's a very competitive young man. So he used to train pretty hard and work up to Tom and work with him. So it was more for Tom. So about mid-21, Dick approached me about possibly taking on a assistant coach role with his Team Telford squad, and he would then provide, a mentor arrangement for me, help me to, learn how to take, good runners, great runners to international level and in international competitions and that sort of stuff. And so I thought that was brilliant. I really wanted to do that. So I still had to coach my athletes, but I was assisting, with the whole squad. And when Dick goes away, I take the whole squad. And Dick's also been very helpful with, me and with what I do with Cam. So, his guidance and his input into the training sessions and all that is fantastic. So, and, Cameron travels. When he travels, he travels with the Team Telford squad. We run in train, warm up, all that sort of thing. So it's easy to make the mistake that he was probably a Team Telford guy, but we do train with Team Telford, but, under my tutelage at the moment.
That's very cool. I think it's fair to say that if that happened more around Australia, that we would have more successful athletes, and it's probably a bit of insecurity that comes into it with some coaches that do not have the ability to do things like that. So good work. Question, I don't want to get too carried away. Cam's 16 and he's still developing, but what have you noticed that's different with athletes like Cam? Is it just pure talent, or is he just one of these guys that rocks up every week, every session, and has that discipline and work ethic to just put his head down?
I mean, there's a number of things with Cam. I mean, definitely talent, definitely work ethic. They're major elements of his, success. But, it's training with the elite athletes, with Telford squad. It's, the camaraderie that he has with the squad and all the guys that he's met around Australia during his racing. I mean, they're a tight-knit group. They're all good mates. They're always watching each other's, Stravas. There's always someone to talk to when he goes away to Melbourne or Adelaide or Sydney. So that's also a very important thing for Cam. Education, I gave him a good education in why we did our sessions, what energy systems it was helping and that type of thing. So he's an educated athlete. He understands the sessions that we do, and it's like an arrangement where we'll discuss what's being done and does he feel that it's going to enhance or help or improve, or what he thinks might be better. So, it's a team effort with him and me. And the other thing is, I mean, he's just got a great support group behind him, like his family, particularly his mum. He's only 16 now, so she's been driving him to training sessions 2, 3, 4 times a week for the last 5 years. She takes him to all of the competitions that we've had to go to. So, tremendous support in the family, and he's also got a great physiotherapist come strength and conditioning coach. So her name's Natasha Cole. And she's been with him for as long as I have. So a lot of credit goes to her to keeping him on the track and improving any weaknesses he had in his technique and biomechanics and all that. So it's a team effort, but I think, it's working really well.
Lee, there's going to be a lot of athletes around the country listening to this, and it's and a lot of them are going to be thinking about who they want to coach when they get in to 18, 19, 20. Do you take on new athletes? How does that work? If someone with some talent and its discipline comes along and asks you, is it just an open system?
Look, yes and no. I mean, like I recently picked up an athlete who came to Canberra from Port Macquarie. He wants to study physiotherapy at UC, and his family and he came and approached me about running, and he's got a pretty good pedigree. He's not a bad runner, so yes, I've taken him on, and he's going to join in. But I don't know whether I would go back to taking 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, and 12-year-olds. It's very time consuming, and there's like a lot of effort has to be put in terms of their development, in their biomechanics and their just their running, how they run, and their economy of running and that sort of thing. So if I was to do that, I'd have to probably change my days. If I was going to take younger athletes, I'd have to train Monday, Wednesday, and possibly Friday, and so it makes a very busy week for me. So so the short answer is yes. I mean, I will take on new athletes, but I'm fairly selective at the moment.
Wise man. Well, it's been lovely having you on board, and I think we should probably do more podcasts with coaches, to be honest with you, because I got a lot out of this, and I think a lot of people out there would have got a lot out of this, and so I think we will make an effort to chat to more coaches. And yeah, I just want to thank you for your time. It's been great.
Appreciate it, Sam. Thank you very much for having me on.